Hello, everyone, and welcome to another roster breakdown. This one just after the release of all of our mutants, the X-Men and the Brotherhood. And this one is specifically leading up to a battle between the X-Men and the Brotherhood. I'm going to be bringing the Brotherhood against Dylan's Uncanny X-Men this Friday, so be looking forward to that. And this way, you know that we're not like just bringing random specified rosters or teams to these battles. We actually go through the whole process of building a roster and then making the decisions about what we're trying to do and all of that kind of stuff. But before I go too deep into that, I'm going to make a small announcement, maybe kind of. I have a special community project that I'm wanting to do a little bit of work on this month. If you are interested in participating in that, something that's only going to take you maximum probably 5 to 10 minutes, if you would shoot me an email at the link down in the description, or just find me on Facebook and message me there to find out what I'm trying to do, what I'm looking for, any of that kind of stuff, please reach out to me. I would love to see a huge community impact with this. So, first of all, thank you if you do it. If not, I understand, doesn't hurt my feelings, but would love for you to participate. And with that, let me introduce once again Dylan. Dylan, tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
Hello. Well, I guess a lot's changed since the last time I was on here. Went ahead and we started a podcast between me and Jacob. I don't think we had that the last time I was on. I don't remember.
Not when you were on for the battle report, but for something else, I think so.
Yeah, I don't quite remember. But yeah, pretty much trying to think of like the best way to say this, but I guess I'm also known as Dyzard throughout the MCP community on the Discords and all that. But yeah, I'm looking really forward to this game. We've tested this with each other a bunch already, and it's just different every single time we play, I swear.
Yeah, it's absolutely awesome, and I'm super excited to finally get one of these games on camera.
Yes.
So we already mentioned, or I already mentioned, that you are bringing the X-Men. So that maybe takes up four of your roster spots. But who is actually in your roster?
All right, so we're gonna start with saying that I have Storm, I have Cyclops, I have Wolverine, Beast, and then we start towing into the others, and we got Mystique, Okoye, Ghost Spider, Hela, and then Black Dwarf.
All right, interesting last choice. Are any of those characters just kind of like stand out to you in one way or another as ones that like you may not necessarily have expected to work in this affiliation, but you were surprised or like happily surprised with?
Absolutely. That's why I saved the last two for last, is because Hela and Black Dwarf are definitely like, what? um, for me, it's like Gwen is like an auto include for Storm almost. Mystique is just too good to not take. Okoye just too good to not take with Storm. And then you get to Hela and Black Dwarf, and then you're just like, what you got going on here? Oh, I forgot Taskmaster. How can I forget Taskmaster? He's in there too, but he's again kind of a given. But yeah, to me, it's Hela and Black Dwarf. They're the outliers by a long shot.
I would dare agree with you. Those are you have some interesting choices in there. Exciting to get to see them play outside of their typical affiliations and still find some success. Now, you did end up building a mono X-Men affiliation, and this is not a roster you have built
Mhm.
just for this like one game. This is one that you've been testing, playing around with, and all that kind of stuff. But you do have two leadership abilities within this one affiliation, providing some flexibility. Do you have a favorite between the two? Do you use Cyclops more or Storm?
So I will say just with like proxying and testing games, I've been playing with this list for a long time. Not really a long time, but a lot of games worth. It seems like a long time. I think I'm at like 14 games with this roster now. I think I'm on my seventh iteration of it. And I would say I tend to lean more towards Storm and Cyclops. I was really down on in the beginning. I think you were actually one of the big people who convinced me to take him and reconsider him. And then I just threw him back in there. And now that I'm playing more games with Cyclops in mind and actually having him on the table and seeing what he does, I've actually been considering him more and more in other spots than just the one I thought he'd be good at.
Interesting. So when do you use Storm as your leader versus when do you use Cyclops as the leader?
So I think the two biggest differences between Storm and Cyclops is Cyclops is really like that jack of all trades. I mean, this roster in general, in my opinion, is a jack of all trades roster. It's not very like specific. It's not very like doesn't have like one goal in mind. It's I could do pretty much kind of anything, but I'm not going to be like perfect or exceptionally great at any one mission. Which I think that exemplifies like Cyclops' leadership and him as a whole. A lot of different types of scenarios, I feel like, but he's not that great at any of them except for Gamma. I think he is a monster on Gamma just because of his leadership and what he brings to with his people who's supporting him, which is why Black Dwarf is in there. Because Black Dwarf and Cyclops and Beast and Wolverine on Gamma is really tough to deal with. Because you have all these really like high health. So you got 6, 7, 6, 6. All of them are 4 physical defense. Beast is the lowest energy defense with a 2. And then everybody else is a 3, 3 for everything else. So like, but the biggest thing you're looking at here is you got Black Dwarf benefiting from Cyclops' leadership. You get a brutal end more than likely on round 2 for 1 power from Black Dwarf if it's set up properly. And that sounds absolutely disgusting because you get that out there, you're going to get the stagger out there, you're going to get all that type of stuff. So I just think Cyclops is amazing on Gamma. And I do, that's kind of just what I think about him is he's a very jack of all trades. So for me, Cyclops, Gamma. The other one I would think about was a game that I had played was for, what was it? I want to say it was Citizens and, oh, shoot, what was it? You might remember. Citizens and I can't remember what the Secure was. But anyways, it was that one, and we're playing it, and I was just like, man, I really wish I had Cyclops here.
The Meteors?
Yeah, Meteors and Citizens. And just throughout the game, I was like, I really wish I had Cyclops with what I have going on here. Like, I kind of had like pairs of people moving around the board, and I was like, I could run this exact same team, but with Cyclops' leadership, and I think it would have been a lot better. Mm-hmm. So I think people need to be more open-minded when it comes to Cyclops' leadership versus Storm's, and I think Storm is overshadowing him because I fell into the trap of, oh, he's not as good as leadership as Storm, but I think he has his place, and it's going to be those fighting scenarios to where you kind of can't control the objective with Storm, which is going to lead me to talking about Storm, where I want Storm on Ds, I want Storm on fast extracts, I want her on stuff that I know I'm going to be moving around a bunch, and I know I'm going to want to try and control the objective. So she's a very objective-based leader, in my opinion. So things that come an example would be hammers, the new 14 threat, the new 18 threat, the mutant madman, like the spread out stuff. The I like those thought processes with Storm because she really wants to jump around, utilize her leadership, keep that cover, keep her distance so she's not gonna get nuked. And then just I think that pretty much sums it up is you got Cyclops as general. I don't really have a game plan, but I do at the same time. To Storm being, I'm going to run this objective and you're going to hate me for it. I think that pretty much sums up for my thoughts of how I play these two leaders. That really kind of goes into when I'm looking at the scenario is, and my opponent's roster is, do I think Storm can run objective better than my opponent? If I don't think so, then I should probably run Cyclops. Is kind of more of what I'm headed towards with my thoughts of this roster. Because if Storm can't control the objective, like let's say I'm playing Syndicate, I probably don't want to play Storm into Syndicate. probably want to play Cyclops at that point.
Yeah, just to get them off of the point to more forcibly rather than just trying to outcontest them, because it's very hard to outcontest the Syndicate.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. So you talked a little bit already about Black Dwarf kind of being for Cyclops, and then
Yes.
a little bit about Spider-Gwen or Ghost Spider with Storm.
Mhm.
Who are the other flex characters, and which leader do you usually try to pair them with?
So, but yeah, like you said, Black Dwarf typically with Cyclops, but he also can flex into Storm. Hopping off of that large base is pretty cool. But Hela, I think I only really see myself using Hela with Storm, even though she does kind of pair with Cyclops pretty well, because getting a Reign of Hell for less than 4 power is pretty cool. But she typically goes with Storm because using that medium base to hop off of. And then she doesn't mind the cover. She's super tanky. Fours across the board with cover seems kind of annoying to deal with.
Can attest to it. It is.
Mystique, I really kind of only see her with Storm as well. She can kind of fit into the Cyclops, but she's really just there for like the deception game and to be annoying. But I really like Mystique with Storm just because I can make a really cheap wide list, which is something I might want to consider with Cyclops, is going more of the 3s with Cyclops instead of going heavy. But what I've done so far is Mystique, Okoye, and Hela, and Gwen. I'm typically running with Storm. And then like Black Dwarf, Hela, Wolverine, like the heavier list, I'm running with Cyclops. Is what I've experienced so far. And then Taskmaster, he's just there. I kind of feel like lately I've been thinking Taskmaster. It's either Taskmaster or Beast or Mystique is kind of what the 3 flex kind of is going on for lower point values. And I just love me some Taskmaster. He's probably one of my favorite characters in the game right now.
He is he's extremely tanky for 3 threat, letting him manage things quite nicely. All right, so we kind of have a good idea of who is in your 10, why you've taken them, and where they kind of fit. So let's talk about the tactic cards.
Yeah.
And since the last time I have done a roster review, we now have the banned and restricted list, which is going to limit some of the cards that you can bring, obviously. So among the restricted cards, which 2 did you bring, and why them over some of the other options?
All right, so I brought Field Dressing and Brace. Field Dressing, to me, like you can say it's like a obvious choice, but you look at these and it's a list of banned and restricted cards, so you pick any of these cards and it's an obvious choice. So Field Dressing for me, I just think it's pretty much the closest you're going to get to a gotcha in this game, because you're going to have those moments in a game where your opponent's going to go and just daze someone, load them up with power, and then you're going to be like, all right, I'm going to Field Dress, and then just wipe you out because you loaded up Wolverine with 10 power and now he wants vengeance. Or even loading up Scott with 10 power and then Field Dressing him and get 2 optic devastations that are perfectly lined up. That sounds pretty cool. So Field Dressing, I love Field Dressing for the fact that you can kind of get a rebuttal if you get a really hard hit on you. It's really good. It's very versatile. Anybody on the team can use it, and it's just a good card. The other one is Brace. My thoughts on Brace is you're either going to go Brace or Medpack. I think those are the 2 that flip-flop. Or Doomed if you want to do that game, or I guess Patch Up. I don't really see many people playing Patch Up anymore. But for me, it's Brace. And I think Brace is... I used to think Medpack. I thought Medpack for a long time. I got kind of like talked out of it, because here's the things you got to look at with Brace. Typically, if you play in Brace, number 1, it's 1 power. So it's 1 power cheaper than Medpack. 2, it can potentially save 2 people, not just 1 person. 3, if you're looking at Medpack saves you 3 health. Typically speaking, your Brace is going to save anywhere from 2 to 5 damage, which it's better. It's just strictly better, because if you look, like, if you tell me like the last time you remember playing Brace, the size of the building was probably a size 3, maybe a size 4. So Brace is ultimately saving you more health than what Medpack would get you for cheaper. Now, the other thing you got to look at is where the state of the game is going. And with Magneto coming out, you're going to have throws for days. And it's going back to a very throw heavy meta, in my opinion. And I think Brace is going back up in it. People wanting to take Brace because it's just good. Like there's no other way to say it. It's just a good card.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think now in mine, and you guys will see my own roster review at a later point in time, I have kept with the med pack and field dressing, maybe in part because I am the one bringing a lot of the throws, so I'm not as concerned. But I think it's a really smart call, and for people, when you were looking to build your own roster, look at what characters are popular. I'm not trying to like be super metagamey, but for the same reason that when the Web Warriors first came out, Venom was a very popular character just because he did really well against the Web Warriors. So Brace is a card that can be absolutely dead if your opponent doesn't bring any characters with throws. But maybe when we get more Asgardians, we see Thor more, that's going to be a month that you want to bring Brace for impact. We see Magneto, who can do multiple throws in a turn. That's a month where you're going to want to be using Brace for impact. So just a little bit of advice with when and to maybe swap that one in over one of the other healing cards or the Doom Prophecy play and all that kind of stuff. So those are those two, both very good. What other 6 cards did you bring though?
I just want to kind of add on to what you're saying is when you're looking at if I want to take Brace or Medpack, and like you kind of hit on it, was what am I bringing that actually needs Brace or Medpack? I personally, in my roster, I have a majority of my characters. If I get something size 4 thrown at me, they're gonna go down. Like most of them, anyways. Most of them are 5 or 6 health and or less. So if I get something big thrown at me, I don't want to lose a character to just a 2 or 3 or throw. That feels bad. Granted, it's only going to save me one time, but it's still better than not having it at all. So something you got to think about, like if you're playing Syndicate, when I was playing Syndicate really heavy, I didn't bring Brace for impact because most of my characters were 7+ health. So I was like, I'm not worried about getting a truck thrown at me for 5 damage. Because my opponent's probably going to be using throws that are going to do 1 or 2 damage on me or throw me into stuff after attacking me. It's a different type of damage. So yes, I completely agree with you. Brace is good, but you got to look at your roster and how you're using Brace versus how you're going to be using Medpack. And I think you bring up a great example with using Magneto. You want Medpack more because hopefully by the time your opponent's throwing stuff at you, you got rid of all the big stuff with Magneto already. So,
no, it's a good call. It's a good insight to kind of look at. Like, hey, if you have characters that are going to easily fall and you're not going to get the chance to heal them back up, Brace is going to be a good call there. Yeah.
All right. So I guess I'll hit on my exclusive cards first.
Yeah.
So the first one I have is Deception. So Mystique and Deception is, I guess you want me to read Deception?
Yeah, go ahead and read it for everybody.
So Mystique may play this card. Choose an enemy character within range 4 of this character. If there are no other non-dazed enemy characters within range 2 of the chosen character, you may advance that chosen character its speed toward this character. Number 1, there is no cost to this card other than your opponent can't be within range 2 of their own people. And it has to be within range 4 of Mystique. Mystique moves long. You could essentially double move and pop this card if you really wanted to and get somebody in their deployment zone. Super nasty. That range 2 stipulation. But you can get some really crazy setups with this going to where, hey, you came up there and I'm just going to deception you towards me. And now you're in my deployment zone and my beater can just hit you twice instead of only once. It's nasty. And I didn't have to pay anything for it. I know you love this card. I love this card. Everybody loves this card. It's just great. If you're taking Mystique, I highly recommend looking at this card and seeing what it can do for you.
Absolutely agree. Really strong. The fact that you don't have to use any power on it. The fact that this is a very easy turn 1 play if you want to bring in your opponent's Baron Zemo who just went and got a hammer and be like, hey, why don't you move along into my Magneto or my Thor, so that they are easily then taken care of themselves. There's definitely some strong play there.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next, I have Exceptional Healing. So this is the one for Wolverine. It's Odin's Blessing for Wolverine. I know you covered this in one of your other videos. It's too good. 3 power to only take 1 damage. It's the same as Odin's Blessings for the Asgard people, but it's only restricted to people with healing factor, and that is currently Sabretooth and Wolverine. It's just a good card because Wolverine, yes, he's got 4 defense. Yes, he's got 7 health. Yes, he can heal two a turn. But sometimes you just get a nasty little Valkyrie into him who rolls 5 wilds and just goes to town on him, and you got to pop this card because you don't really got a choice.
Yeah, and the other thing, especially I think for Wolverine, is he has that really low Mystic defense.
Mm-hmm.
And so whether you're facing off against your opponent's Loki or Doctor Strange or whoever, being able to reduce a very spiked hit going into Wolverine, just saying now I'm going to take 1, is just going to be a powerful effect with when he has this glaring chink in his armor.
Yeah, absolutely. Some things to think about with this card when you're playing it with Wolverine. From what I've been seeing and playing with it, and what I have come to the conclusion of is look at how useful this card is going to be for you in this moment. One, it's like, okay, well, my Wolverine's already gone. You're gonna daze him because you have 2 attacks left already. Do I really want to spend 3 power and waste this card? Or do I bank all this power you just gave me and come back hard next turn and then use it when I'm on my flip side to try and stay alive for longer? So it's really like this card's all about timing and when you use it properly. Because it's like, let's say it's round 2 and you come in with that Valkyrie and you do that 8 damage to me off of 1 attack. It's like, yeah, I might pop this card now because Wolverine hasn't even gone yet. And I really can't lose Wolverine this early in the game. So I would say think about the timing when you're going to use this card. It can be a little bit tricky if it's not just like oh, you got 4 damage on me. I'm going to pop it now. Try and think about it a little bit before you just go popping it off.
Absolutely. All right, so you've got the character-specific cards down. What about your affiliation-specific cards?
All right, so affiliation-specific cards. I have First Class and Children of the Atom. I have some really strong thoughts on both of these. When I first saw the X-Men cards, I was really like Brotherhood cards are so much better. And the more and more I've played X-Men throughout testing this roster out, the more and more I'm like, these cards are deceptively really, really good. I mean, First Class is kind of just, you read it a couple times and you're like, oh, okay, I get it. But putting it into play and seeing it in action is actually just so much better. So First Class, where else can you tell me that you can move up, interact with an objective for free, and then interact with another objective, or move up, interact with an objective, attack somebody, like you get like more power going on. It's so good because you just interact for free for 1 objective if you're an X-Men. So anybody with the affiliation can do it. And it's just how mobile they can be with a Storm team. You can really just abuse First Class and do some really fun stuff with it. I guess I'll leave that at that because it's just you got to try it for yourself to really see the benefits and how good this card can actually be. And I was like, oh, it's good if you have priority, but no, it's good. Like first round, you pop this card, it's going to be good, and you're going to get your money's worth. I haven't tried playing it later in the rounds to see if it's beneficial later, but I think it's most bang for its buck. It's going to be that round 1 play. Just let me help my people maintain some power to go into round 2 stronger, as well as start scooping up objectives. So I really like First Class.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think first class does need to be played in the first round. It's the time where it's going to save you the most power because that's definitely the time where you're going
Yeah.
to be interacting with objectives the most, or it should be at least.
Yeah.
And as well, it just works very similar to one of Asgard's biggest strengths is having that two power, so that if you have a secure objective that requires interacting with, which by the way, a third of them do,
Mhm.
so there's a pretty decent chance, especially if you, the X-Men player, have now planned for that and have those objectives in mind, uh, really gets you off to a really nice start over your opponent 9 times out of 10, I would dare say.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, because every time I've used it going into round two, I'll have like somebody on two power, almost on my team on two power because I only needed one power, or
Mhm.
I didn't need any power rather. And then at that point, you do one attack and you're for sure going to get your spender off if you need it, or a superpower that you really need. It really just helps build momentum to go into your turns further and further. And then next we got Children of the Atom. This is one of those cards that I was really kind of like, really, at first. And the more and more I think about it, and the more and more I played, I was just like, this card's actually really good. It really just comes back to building that momentum train. With how many status effects are in this game, you're typically, I would say, on average, if you were to play a game right now, you're gonna have at least one character get some conditions on it. Um, so it's like, why not turn that negative into a positive? Because you just get power for it and you remove the condition for free. Like I don't pay anything. I had poison and stun on me. I got rid of them and I got two power. Um, it's only on one X-Men. So if you have Hawkeye out there just putting poison on everybody, can't do everybody. But if he's like focusing on one person, like let me put stun, let me put poison, or if you got Proxima out there, starbursting people, or Star Lord full autoing somebody, like all these different scenarios you can go through. It's just super good. Because it's free power. And I'm not going to argue against free power because X-Men are kind of power hungry when it comes down to the base of it.
Yeah, I completely agree, and it's such a great flex card. It's not one that you have to
Yeah.
bring into every single game where you're kind of like, cool, first class, that's probably going to be in that five every single time because it helps you with the objective play so well. But maybe if you have one of these other tactic cards or two of these other tactic cards where like maybe you don't bring Wolverine or Mystique and you're still needing that extra tactic card to bring in, Children of the Atom fills that slot really nicely.
Yeah. Moving on for the unaffiliated cards, just the fillers. We got no matter the cost. Real simple. Wolverine, no matter the cost. You can essentially pop off a Berserker Barrage round one, detriment to you because he'll heal back that to one if you didn't use the power for it. So it's just super good. As well as the card is flexible. Other people in the affiliation don't mind it. Like Taskmaster doesn't mind it. Cyclops definitely doesn't mind it. Black Dwarf definitely doesn't mind it. There's a lot of people in my roster who could use no matter the cost, but it's primarily there for Wolverine because he loves a Berserker Barrage for free. So,
Absolutely, especially on his entrance side where he can make
yeah.
sure he's trying to get those extra attack dice in there and still
Mm-hmm.
heals most of it at the end of the round anyway.
Yeah. And then my last tactic card I'm taking is kind of a one of those head scratchers, I guess you could say. I threw in 1-2 punch, and because I'm like sitting there and I'm looking through all the tactics cards because I dropped Venom for Black Dwarf, and I had to drop Lethal Protector. I was like, well, what do I put in there for that? And I was like, I really want a way to get Storm more dice. And I mean, of course, it was Doom Prophecy, but I don't really want it because I want Brace. I want Field Dressing for more. I was like, well, I got a Koye. If I'm taking Storm, I'm going to be trying to take a Koye, and she should be around Storm's target or around Storm, one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. There should be somebody within two at all of my target that I'm going after. And a 6, or if you have the power for an 8-die lightning bolt, could be very clutch. Or a 7, or dare I say 9-die hurricane. You can look at the 9 die into one person, but it seems like it wasn't a bad idea in concept. So far, it hasn't worked out for me as well as I thought it did, but I'm still testing it. I've only tried it out one time. But I like the idea of it, and I'm gonna keep going with it until I get shown that it's not worth it, and I should be taking this. So
yeah, there's like obviously one of Storm's biggest weaknesses is her lack of just pure damage output as a leader. And so in the same way that 1-2 punch is kind of meant for Wolverine, not 1-2 punch, the no matter the cost is meant for Wolverine, and it works really well with Wolverine, but it can be used elsewhere. 1-2 punch is the same, where if you suddenly need to get that extra damage off, not necessarily with Storm, but maybe with somebody else like Taskmaster or Black Dwarf or whomever, it's going to be able to bring the pain to whoever is on the receiving end of that. And if 1-2 punch doesn't end up working out, there's about 3 or 4 different variations of the card of how it's going to work and how it gets you that 2 dice.
Yep. And that kind of just comes down to I've talked to you. We kind of went over this roster before. We've had discussions about this roster in many of its different iterations. And we've talked about different things like that. And one of the biggest conversations we had was, okay, well, what cards can I take with these characters? Okay, well, what if I take this character out? I'm not taking that character. Really narrowing it down to I at least always have 5 good cards I'll always be able to take no matter what. And that was a real struggle because when I first was doing this list is I was trying to stuff Brotherhood and X-Men in there. And that was really rough to try and get the tactics cards to work out for me. Even more so now after seeing Magnetic Refraction be so much better than I actually thought it was. Nasty card. So it's just something for people to think about when you're building your tactics cards is if you're bringing character specifics cards, which if you think about it, I really kind of have cards that are really meant for only one person, but it can flex into somebody else. Like anybody can utilize 1-2 punch. Anybody can utilize no matter the cost. First class is for the whole team. Field dressings can be used for anybody. Then I got Deception, Exceptional Healing. Those are very character specific, but it's only 2 out of my 8. So it's really not that much of a feels bad. So it kind of just, it's I love roster building. It's a fun time. I like experimenting and trying out new things, which is why 1-2 punch is there. For a while there, I was trying out Follow Me. I was like, let's see if we can bring this card back into the game because I don't see anybody use it anymore. And I was like, how nasty would that be to be running a 6-wide X-Men and pop a Follow Me and play that whole Proxima Corvus play of, hey, I'm stealing priority from you because you didn't expect me to.
Yeah, to get that double activation.
Yeah,
for sure. All right.
So
well, speaking of the tactic cards and ones that are left behind, you left behind one of the X-Men affiliation ones, even though you are mono X-Men. You left behind To Me, My X-Men, which is kind of their version of Avengers Assemble. Why did that one not make the cut?
So this is one card that I still am pretty down on, and I haven't actually tried it out yet to see it. No, I have tried it out once, and that was a real big letdown. I was like, man, this card sucks. But I actually had a conversation today, and it made me think about this card a little bit and think that, well, To Me, My X-Men is, you look at all the X-Men affiliations. You have Storm and you have Cyclops as a leader. Both of these affiliations, no matter how you build their team, kind of want to be clumped together. If you think about like playing with them and seeing them played, most of how these teams play, they kind of want to clump together. They don't like being spread out. And that's where To Me, My X-Men comes in, is to bring your team back together. Like, let me send Wolverine out this way to take this extract. Let me send out somebody else this way to take out that extract. All right, now I'm going to pop To Me, My X-Men and bring them into the center. And let's say I'm playing Scott. Well, I didn't have people within range to get off an Optic Devastation this turn, but I'm going to pop that and bring those guys in here. They're within 3 now. I'm popping a 7-die 5-range beam attack into you that you were not expecting at all because I had nobody near me and I didn't have enough power, but now I do. So,
except for the fact that every power that Scott spends to play To Me, My X-Men,
you're not wrong.
Been used for the
yeah. No, I was saying it. I was like, oh man, I hope. Let me think about this real quick. But I mean, it's the thought is still just like I feel like X-Men want to play very central. Both teams do. Storm can spread out a little bit more, but just her adding more maneuverability to her already maneuverable team is kind of cool. And it's also just like you send somebody off to a hairy situation, or they just go out to grab an extract and you pull them back. So Mystique can't deception them or deception them as bad as they could have. Little plays like that. So like I think it's a good, valuable card, but I just don't have room for it in my roster because like I already have 2 X-Men cards, the Children of the Atom and First Class. First Class, I think, is like you should take First Class if you're playing X-Men. Like it's too good to not pass up on. And then Children of the Atom, I just feel like getting an outside power gain that could be completely random anywhere in the game. It could be sometime I need it, and it could be at a time I don't really need it that much. But it could be good versus something that I got to pay for to move towards somebody. I think it has its purposes. I just don't see it as far as like I don't see it in my roster. If you have like another thing I was trying to do with this roster is have like super cheap tactics cards. So it's like I got Children of the Atom for free. Brace for Impact is 1. Deception is free. First Class is free. No matter the cost is free. The only things I'm paying, people. Everything else is free or 1. So I wanted to keep really cheap on my tactics cards. And that's also why because I'm taking hammers, and hammers makes tactics cards really expensive, and running really cheap tactics cards that have a really good benefit is pretty good.
Absolutely.
Which comes to bring up a point of even if you have a free tactic card, like let's say no matter the cost or First Class or anything like that, you still have to pay the hammer tax on that.
Yes, no, you still have to pay the taxes, even if the card wouldn't necessarily be free or anything like that. Which is why you just play not to me X-Men, the First Class before you pick up any of the hammers.
Yes.
Cool. So real quickly, what secures did you bring, and then what extraction missions did you bring?
All right, so I got Meteors, Gamma, and the brand new Mutant Madman turns City Center into a lethal amusement park. And oh man, I love saying that one because I just love AMG. The names they come up with these scenarios, they're always super clever and just like they get better and better. Like Mutant Madman turns City Center into lethal amusement park. What? It's great. I love what they're doing to these naming conventions for these crises, and it's fun. They're doing a great job. So those are my secures. So I got a 17, a 15, and an 18, pretty widespread. And it's kind of, and also for my extracts, I got 18, 17, 14. I'm kind of projecting to my opponent that I'm not afraid of what threat level you throw at me. Because even if they throw a 20 or 19 at me, I can still play a 20 or 19 pretty easily. But I'm showing that I can cover all the low threat values. Is what I'm kind of doing with my crisis selection as well. Gamma, again, comes back to Scott. Meteors, so far I've liked Storm, but I'm kind of thinking Scott lately. And then the Mutant Madman, Storm. I love Storm on that one. Then as far as my extracts go, I got hammers, cubes, and the brand new 14 senators. I like having the widespread of point values as far as like, again, should my opponent I'm not afraid, as well as I can force my opponent into a sticky situation they might not lock better. Like forcing a 14 on someone just seems super fun and super mean. And I love that scenario as well. So yeah, I just kept it wide, really, I guess, more extracts just because I wanted to capitalize on First Class. So being able to have 4 or I guess 3, 4, or 5 are my extract options. So having First Class, and they're really kind of, I'm really benefiting from First Class because I have multiple scenario objectives to interact with.
Yeah, and you kind of did the same thing with your secures, where both the Mutant Madman and the Origin Bombs, the Meteors, are all ones that you have to spend a power to interact with. So first class will let you scoop up an extraction objective, while still also getting to interact with those different things to score extra points. Works out really nicely and has some good synergy there.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, the last question I have for you is, knowing who your opponent is and that I am bringing the Brotherhood, what is your biggest concern taking them on?
Magneto. I don't want to say this because Magneto is big, bad, and scary, but he's so hard to take down, and he does so much every single turn. He's just super annoying. I guess, and then I don't really know how else to say it, but I guess I could do a spoiler for your list, because I know your list, and that's Captain Marvel. Because X-Men, I think if you're playing against X-Men, Captain Marvel is like a prime choice. She's super good into X-Men. It's just, there's no other way to say it. A Captain Marvel, I don't have the killing potential to take her out super easy. I have to get real lucky. And then the same thing with Magneto. He's just super hard to take out. Like, that's my issue, I think, with my roster is a lot of my killing potential outside of Dwarf is very dicey. I'm looking for a lot of just good dice, and it kind of like brings it back to my Guardians days. Guardians are about, can you get good dice? And I kind of feel like X-Men are the same conditions, or you have to do damage on low amounts of dice. They're just a very dicey team when it comes down to the root of it. So, but they're fun, and it's X-Men. So
yeah, absolutely. No, Wolverine's got a little bit of consistency with his charge, a little bit. But yeah, for the most part, there's not a lot of re-rolls or dice modifying abilities unless you're on the defensive side, which then X-Men have quite a few nice superpowers and abilities. So they're a little bit more defensive and stuff. But yeah, no, two characters that have a 6 dice attack with re-rolls is not something I think anybody necessarily wants to go up against.
Not just that, but a 6 die attack of energy in the beast is nasty.
Yes. Yes.
I have to ask you though, same question to you. If you're looking at this, because you know you're coming up against it, what is your biggest worry?
Yeah, so my least favorite kind of setup for the Brotherhood right now is one that is spread out, but doesn't make, but still makes Mystique's leadership ability null and void. And Storm just kind of capitalizes on those kind of things by having her team be very mobile and able to bounce around, where Mystique is not really capable of doing anything with those flipping button objectives. And which then forces me to use Magneto's leadership ability, even though it's not necessarily going to be anything that is super effective then, because he has to get spread out, and I don't necessarily want to bring a 6 threat model onto a spread out objective.
So basically what you're saying is, what I really want to get is, I want to get Mutant Madmen and Mutant the Senators as the objectives, and I want to force 14 threat is what you're saying I want to do.
I mean, I won't say that necessarily, but I guess we'll get to find out.
That we will. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think forcing you into mags, I don't like facing Magneto, but it's like, even if I try to like force you into Mystique, which really I don't really know other than trying to give you a low threat value and making it something like, I don't know, Extremist console. It comes down to it's a little weird. I don't know. I think Storm has a better Extremist game than Mystique does, but maybe we'll find that out. I don't know if you're taking Extremist or not. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm really hoping that I can force this 18 and 14 down to you, making you go 14 and seeing this crazy game play out. Yeah,
absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me, not just for this, but also for our game to come. And I know you talked a little bit about it beforehand, but please go ahead and tell us a little bit more about the podcast you're a part of.
All right. So I am on the Danger Room podcast with Sploosh and Jacob, and we basically talk about strategy and I guess, more in depth of like how to make yourself better at this. I guess one of our slogans that we kind of wanted to go with was how to level up your game of MCP. And that's kind of why we're called the Danger Room, because the Danger Room, X-Men, that's where they train and make themselves better. It's kind of like our whole thought process behind the start of the show and where we wanted to go with it is give like constructive content for people to make themselves guess like better at the game, or try to like give different types of strategies or ways to look at things, stuff like that. But yeah, we're the Danger Room. We put episodes out every Monday so far for I don't know, about 2 months. Lose track of time. Might be 3 months now. I think today was or
Dude,
tomorrow's episode 13.
COVID's weird, man.
Yeah,
It just messes with time.
Time just traveled, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's what we do, and it's been a joy and a blast doing it. And yeah, it's fun times. I'm happy to have a game where I can be part of this content creator world, and I love it.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, with that, as a reminder to everybody listening, please shoot me an email or a message on Facebook or any of the above. Get in touch with me about this secretive community project that I have going on. Would love for you to help participate in that. As well, I feel the need to say thank you to my patrons, members of the Guild Hall. Your support makes a lot of doing all this a lot more worthwhile for me, and all of that that is contributed goes straight back into making either editing software upgrades or physical upgrades on cameras, lights, and stuff like that. So thank you all so much. And well, just everybody else who's still just watching and stuff, thanks for watching. And until next time, keep on gaming.